flying. This is falling with style. To infinity and beyond!
What's going on, everybody? Sean Ross here, and welcome back, guys, to another review where I will be talking about and discussing My Hero Academia manga chapter 187 entitled Burn and Roar Todoroki versus Nomu High End. And as the title suggests, we get the continuation of that fight between Endeavor and this new Nomu High End. But as we have seen these past couple of chapters, we are really focusing in on the pro heroes of My Hero Academia. And I really do like getting to see this change of focus to where we're not really following our student in training. And here we are following for the pro hero arc, Endeavor and Hawks out on missions and fighting villains. But the thing that I'm loving that Horikoshi is doing right now with this arc is getting to show the growth and possible redemption arc being laid out in front for Endeavor's character, to where not only is he trying to grow as a person, as a man, as a father, as a husband, and as the new #1 pro hero to become the symbol of peace for society, but it's also going to show that the rest of the Todoroki family is going to play a part in Endeavor's growth as a character. But by far, my favorite section within this chapter was going back to the hospital, where we get to see Shoto's mom, Rei Todoroki, trying to reconnect with her other children and trying to build back that relationship that she lost with them. Over the past 10 years, she has been stuck within this hospital. This section just brought a smile to my face, and it was very much a welcome surprise to realize that the rest of the Todoroki family is going to play a role in this arc we are following with Endeavor's character. So there's going to be a lot to talk about with this chapter, just with the Todoroki family dynamic alone, but I also will be diving into that Endeavor and High End fight, and also talk a little bit more about the lackadaisical Hawks, and as we come to learn what his quirk is and what it actually does. So let's go back to the beginning of this chapter as we go into the hospital section, where we come to see Shoto's brother and sister, Fuyumi Todoroki and Natsu Todoroki, coming to visit their mother, where we finally got the reveal of Shoto Todoroki's mother's name, Rei Todoroki, which I gotta say is a beautiful name for her character. But it feels rather strange seeing this type of dynamic between members of the Todoroki family, where they are happy and smiling and just enjoying each other's company. When Shoto interacts with Endeavor, you don't really get those same types of feelings. So getting to see Fuyumi and Natsu interacting and talking with their mother Rei so naturally, it doesn't really feel like the 10-year absence really affected their overall relationship, but you can definitely get hints here and there that the 10-year absence has affected the growth of their characters. And that is demonstrated, I think, kind of well with Fuyumi's character, where she acts more motherly. She had to step into that motherly role because Rei was absent. And that is demonstrated within this chapter when she's kind of scolding Natsu, kind of slapping him over the head, saying like, don't do that, don't do this. But then also bringing the sweater and warmer clothes for Rei because it's starting to get colder outside. But I think because Fuyumi hasn't been around her mother all that much, she kind of forgot that her mother has an ice quirk and most likely loves the cold. So I love getting to see that interaction pop up, but then I also love getting to see Natsu, who is basically a happier, littler Endeavor. And you can tell he's a combination between the two because he has the face and features of Endeavor, but has the white hair of his mother Rei. But he is the typical college kid that does not come home all too often and gets scolded by Fuyumi. That was a great moment because I could relate to that so much. But one heartwarming scene that I absolutely loved during this section was getting to see how happy Rei actually was as she was holding up all of those letters that she received from her son Shoto. And can I just say that that is a very Shoto Todoroki thing to do, because his life has gotten much busier with school, with friends, and with the provisional license classes, and because his mom is not allowed to have a cell phone in the hospital and he cannot visit as much, he does the next best thing. He begins to write letters to her, updating her on what's going on in his life. So if he cannot visit in person, he can actually visit in letter form. That is cute, that is adorable, and I love getting to see the growing relationship not only between Rei and Shoto, but Rei interacting with all of her other children. And I do know that many other people are going to point out that not all the children are present right now. We are still missing one of Shoto's brothers. And I already know many people are going to be bringing up the fact, the theory that that could be Dabi. Dabi is a Todoroki. We still don't know if that is true. It most likely could be true, and that is probably what we're going to be learning about within this arc since we're focusing so heavily on Endeavor and the Todoroki family. But hopefully we find out more about that, whether that's going to be true or false as we move further in this arc. So I just wanted to bring that up right now because I know some people might have brought that up in the comments. So moving forward in this chapter, as the dynamic between Fuyumi, Natsu, and Rei begins to kind of like settle a little bit, this is when the flaming elephant in the room starts to get talked about, when Natsu brings up to Rei's attention, did you find out that he got promoted to the #1 pro hero yesterday? And this is when things get really interesting. Natsu begins to talk about how the public is still unaware about what has transpired privately within the Todoroki household, how Shoto and his mother suffered abuse and trauma at the hands of Endeavor, and no one knows about this. And it's plainly obvious that Natsu doesn't really have much of a relationship with his father Endeavor. He doesn't have too many memories of him, and he kind of views him as a stranger, but he will never forgive for what he did to Shoto and to his mother. And he kind of just views Endeavor as someone that is just moving forward and just forgetting about the past entirely. He's kind of just sweeping it under the rug as if it doesn't matter. But it's once Rei begins to open her mouth and talk about Endeavor, this is when we start to see the small steps that Endeavor is making towards his redemption, and that he does remember the ghosts of his past, and they haunt him to this very moment. We see Rei point to some flowers sitting there on the windowsill, and she begins to tell Natsu and Fuyumi about the first time that she met their father. And on that first encounter, she ended up telling Endeavor what her favorite type of flower was, and from that moment up until present, she only told Endeavor that one time. And yet those are the same exact flowers sitting there on the windowsill. So not only does this go to show that Endeavor remembers the past and that he remembers his wife, but he remembers everything that has transpired up until this point, and has even gone to visit at the hospital, but has never seen Rei face to face, which I honestly think is a good thing, because even the doctor says he doesn't know how Rei would handle that situation, coming face to face with the source of her trauma. But she knows that Endeavor is not going to forget the past. He is not going to sweep this under the rug. This is going to be ghosts that haunt him for the rest of his life, but he's going to push forward and hoping to redeem himself. She doesn't really know what's going on deep down within the heart of Endeavor, but she knows he's not going to forget anything. Not his past, not his family, and he's trying to face them all head on. And this is when we begin to transition into the fight with Endeavor and the Nomu, but this section right here that we just had put so much more emphasis on that one sentence that Endeavor said as the new #1 pro hero. Just watch me. This puts everything into context for me, at least, to where I read just watch me, and now having this built into that statement, this just goes to show that this redemption arc that Horikoshi is doing for Endeavor is really, really good right now. Like, it's a long road ahead for Endeavor, but right now we are taking baby steps. And I'm not saying that Endeavor is a good person right now. I know he has done disgusting things in the past to Shoto and to Rei, and he should not be forgiven right away for that. But if he is willing to try to change, to become a better person, to become a better hero, I think that that is a great thing. And I just love what Horikoshi right now is doing with Endeavor by incorporating what we just had with the Todoroki family. It is being handled beautifully. So once we reach the ending of our Todoroki family section, we dive right back into our fight between Endeavor and this high-end Nomu, and I honestly cannot wait to see this fight get adapted into the anime, just to see Endeavor floating and flying through the air amongst the skyscrapers, having fire bursting from his feet. He's going to look very much like Iron Man, and I just already know Studio Bones is going to do a wonderful job with this fight once the anime catches up to the current position we are at within the manga. But I particularly really like the reaction from Hawks within this moment, because he is looking at Endeavor and he did not know he could fly. And he asked him, he's like, wait a minute, I didn't know you could fly. And Endeavor just simply responds, I like to call this not falling. I like to call it falling with style.
This is falling with style.
But I guess not falling works too. But as Endeavor is looking on at high end, this new Nomu, it begins to regenerate the limbs that got burnt off or scorched by Endeavor's flames. And this is when Endeavor begins to analyze the situation because he's run into Nomu in the past. He's heard of the one at the USJ. He dealt with the ones at Hosu, and he helped out during the Camino operation. So he's had his fair share of dealing with these Nomus, but he's noticing a difference between the black-skinned Nomus and the white-skinned Nomus. And that sounds really weird saying it out loud, but it's what it states within this chapter. But what Endeavor is beginning to realize is that this Nomu is different entirely because it also has the ability to speak and is somehow conscious and sentient. So he's trying to figure out what makes this Nomu that much different, but now his goal has changed to where he cannot kill this thing right away. He needs to capture it, that way they can interrogate it. We see Endeavor launch his brilliant Scorching Fist Hell Spider attack right at High End, but High End is very easily able to speed blitz right past this attack, and he gets up close and personal with Endeavor, to where he just thrusts Endeavor through the building to where he's crashing into wall after wall after wall until he comes crashing out the other side of this building. But High End isn't finished just yet because while still holding Endeavor, he uses his arm to just cut through the foundation of this building to where now the top structure begins to slide off the foundation to where it's going to plummet down into the streets below. So not only will the people in the building get killed, but now the people down in the streets are in jeopardy as well. So this situation with Endeavor is not looking too good, and this is kind of where Hawks comes to rescue this situation, though he seems rather hesitant at first because as he is seeing this transpire between High End and Endeavor, he basically says, "I'm counting on you," number one, with this sinister look on his face. Now, you can read this many different ways, but I also kind of view this as him not wanting to get involved to where he wants Endeavor to handle this situation on his own. But once he realizes that Endeavor is having a bit of trouble, this is when Hawks jumps into the fray. He ends up rescuing 76 people that were injured within this building, and we also get the reveal of what Hawks' quirks is and what it actually does. Hawks' quirk is Adamantine Wings. His feathers are both strong and flexible, and he can control each and every one as he pleases. This quirk is strong, powerful, and very versatile. But I think this really does go to explain why Hawks has such a lazy personality. It's because he can actually sit in one location and remotely send out his feathers to do his job, to do his work. He literally doesn't have to lift a finger. He has a wide range to work with. But I noticed a small little drawback with sending out so many feathers because if you notice within this chapter, his wings become smaller the more feathers he sends out. So most likely this hinders his ability to fly until he has more feathers return to his wings to where they can grow a bit larger. But I do like the nod of adamantine within his name for his quirk because adamantine, adamantium from the X-Men comics, the metal within Wolverine's body, because adamantine means unbreakable. Hawks has unbreakable wings. How long will it be until we find out the limit for these wings? Because I have a feeling, just with Hawks' character, and I'm very curious to see where Horikoshi is going to be taking him, will we see the limit of these unbreakable wings? Because I have to keep going back to the Icarus comparisons with Hawks' character, and I'm very curious on where Horikoshi is taking Hawks' character during this pro-hero arc. But to end off this chapter, we see Hawks try to cut all the way through High End's neck, and then we see Endeavor just shoot fire beams from his fingertips to trap and encase the Nomu. And as we see High End starting to regenerate his neck, he just smiles very demonically and simply states, "Interesting. This fight is far from over, and I am very curious to see what we are going to be getting to continue this fight next chapter, because right now, High End has speed and power that surpasses Endeavor, our current #1 hero. So will Endeavor actually win out in the end? Will he end up capturing High End, this new Nomu? Or will it come out to a draw to where High End is going to escape and go back to wherever whence he came, and it's going to be Endeavor and Hawks trying to track him down to locate who created High End, this Nomu. So with that, guys, that is my review on chapter 187 of My Hero Academia. And now I definitely want to hear your guys' thoughts on this latest chapter. What were your positives? What were your negatives? And what was your favorite standout moment from this chapter? Leave that down in the comments below. And if you guys want to talk more about My Hero Academia outside of YouTube, feel free to follow me on Twitter. I have a lot of fun talking about My Hero Academia, and I tend to share some early stuff from my My Hero videos over there on Twitter. So if you want to join in on the conversation there, a link can be found in the description down below. But that's going to do it for me here, guys. So until next week when we have chapter 188 of My Hero Academia, I'll talk to you guys next time. But remember, go beyond plus ultra.